So we are all familiar with love, but there's so many forms of love. There's romantic love, there's friendship, there's kindness, there's care for other people. And they're all vital for our happiness, both in terms of feeling as though, well, feeling it and receiving it, and also giving love, giving care to others. So tonight we will be looking at how we can train our capacity to love. And how, by training that capacity, we can reach new understandings of ourselves, of others, and of the nature of existence itself. So a very warm welcome to you. My name is Viryanagha, so I'm the chair of the Brixton Buddhist Community, and yeah, really delighted to have you on the stream tonight, our Meditation and Buddhism Wednesday night live stream. So do let us know in the chat box on YouTube where you're tuning in from, and I'll give people some shout outs as we go. And just to say what's happening tonight, we're going to have Amarapuspa joining us later, who's going to be giving a talk on this theme, and we'll have also a short meditation and a chance for questions and answers as well. So so what we're going to do tonight is we'll start with a very short saluting the shrine. Then I'll do a few hellos, then we'll have a short meditation, and then we'll get on with the rest of the program. So if you haven't saluted the shrine before, this is just us orientating ourselves towards our ideals. So you're welcome to just watch, but if you know it, you're very, very welcome to join in. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Namah, Om Ahum. Very good. So let's see who we've got joining us. So Charlotte, hello from Brixton. Jill from Gypsy Hill. Thanks for joining us, Jill. Exo Chargrins, salutations from neighbouring Honor Oak. Honor Oak. Can't say that very quickly, can you? Honor Oak. And a Biomitri. Hello, Biomitri from Bristol. Do let us know if you're tuning in from elsewhere, and I'll try and give you a few shout outs later on as well. So let's just start. I would like to start with just a couple of minutes of body awareness, just to help us arrive, just like we might do a physical class. So I'm just going to lead the 3-minute breathing space, a very, very simple meditation, one which I really like that you can do absolutely anywhere. So just get yourself comfortable in your chair, or if you're sitting on the floor on your cushions. And just want you to start by connecting with your body. So just if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes and just connect with the sense of your weight pressing on the ground. Sense of your body, your spine rising up from the base of your body, from your pelvis, from your hips. And just particularly tuning into sensations that you can feel in the body. So I said that pressure on the ground, but you also might feel certain tightness in your muscles or an openness. You might feel hot or cold. Maybe you have the sensation of your hands resting on one another in your lap, or wherever they are. So we're just using this as an opportunity to get out of our thought-orientated mind, just into sensations of the body. And then we can just take that a little bit deeper by just bringing our awareness in a more focused way onto the breath. So just letting your body breathe and just staying with the sensation of the breath. It enters and leaves your body. Just staying with that breath all the way in, into the belly or to the diaphragm, and back out again. And then we can just turn that awareness outwards. We can, from that inner focus, we can turn it right out to take in all the sensations in the room. So the sounds that we can hear, maybe you can hear birds outside, or traffic going by, or your housemates or children, partners in adjoining rooms. So just allowing all that in, a sense of you in your environment with other people around, outside, around the area that you live. And just seeing if we can just connect with them, the idea of them, just a little bit, just to broaden that awareness out. And then you can just bring that short meditation to a close. Good, so hopefully that just lets us arrive a bit from whatever we've been doing. Maybe we've been online a lot today or doing emails or whatever, so hopefully that's a little bit of punctuation in your evening or even your day. A couple more shouts. Shout out to Anthony from Peckham. Thanks for tuning in, Anthony. And also Kalpana. Very nice to have you on the live stream, Kalpana. She gives a very warm welcome to Amarapuspa as well. So, okay, great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce Amarapuspa and bring her onto the screen in a moment. So Amarapuspa, first say that I've worked with Amarapuspa now for a number of years at Brixton. She's been a real stalwart, a real veteran of looking after people and things at Brixton for a long, long time. So Amarapuspa serves as our women's Mitra convener here at Brixton. So basically a Mitra convener is someone who takes responsibility for the welfare, the spiritual welfare of women, in this case women in the community, in the Sangha. And Amarapuspa has really been fantastic at that. She really does, well, I describe her as Herculean. She really does shoulder a lot of that responsibility and really looks out for people, really caring, very creative and very warm as well. So I'll welcome Amarapuspa onto the virtual screen now. So here she is. Amarapuspa, welcome Amarapuspa.
Thank you, Viranaga. Thank you, and hello to everybody. Sorry I can't see you. I just wanted to say something about the background. I'm not in another time zone at the moment. I'm actually in a particularly green part of South London. And this is actually the view from my flat, which is quite a lovely green secluded type of outlook. But just below that is a busy road with traffic going by. I see buses going by, ambulances, and beyond that, what we call the world. And in these days, in these particular times of being in lockdown, I think I'm not alone in thinking about the world or bearing the world in mind even more as we're in this pandemic and this world crisis. And I would say what I think the world needs right now most is love. And tonight I would like to explore what we mean when we use the word love and what the Buddha said about a particular type of love and how that relates to cultivating a certain wisdom and insight into the true nature of reality. So as Viranaga said, that word love applies to this vast range of things. I think we stretch that word to so many different areas. Sometimes I wonder if there's another language where they have many more specific words for the types of love, like with Eskimos having many different words for snow. I mean, I'd be very interested to know that. But in English, we apply the word love to such a range of things. So for one thing, we use the word love to express strong preferences. And that can apply to just this huge, infinite range of phenomena. So anywhere from I love this particular type of chocolate to I love types of cars and music, nature. The range is endless. And I think we do this to shore up a sense of identity. We can do this. I mean, I know in the past when I've done this, it helps me feel more concrete and distinct and individual. We also have many love songs and love poems. And in those instances, we're doing those are by and large apply to people. But I'm not aware of many love songs to cars, but I could be wrong. But I think mainly it applies to people. And again, there's a huge range from romantic love and passion and a very high standard of altruistic love. Um, and then we have our so-called loved ones. And I'm sure I'm not alone. Now, it wouldn't necessarily apply to me necessarily, but I'm sure people in lockdown might have the experience with their so-called loved ones of finding they're getting on their nerves, or find them a bit irritating, or even worse, when they don't give us what we want or need. And but on the other hand, this is part of a range of our responses in that situation with loved ones, where we would also have a more selfless type of love, where we truly want their well-being. We're truly interested in their welfare. And this would apply to our friends, relatives, people in this circle of warmth and affection we often can create in our lives. And the Buddha would say that this type of love, the higher range of this love, is a very positive social emotion. And he gave many teachings around caring for relatives and friends. But he also said this was limited in terms of our realizing our full potential, and that we can tend to make a refuge. Well, we do tend to make a refuge with our relationships, with our family and friends. And there's some very psychologically positive aspects to that. But by making this warm circle, it can be quite excluding and exclusive, and it can lead to us seeing what's outside that circle as a kind of a cold, hostile, unfriendly place. And a cold, hostile, unfriendly place, and leads to a sense of us versus them, and can lead to conflict, war at its worst. There's also this sense of lack of interest in people outside that circle that we create. And but the Buddha said that, while recognizing this is also a positive social motion, he also said, even though it's limited, we can, it's a very good starting point to develop a particular kind of love he called metta. And metta is a Pali word, which is difficult to translate exactly, but a close approximation would be loving kindness. And this is a love that leads to wisdom and insight, and an other regarding interest in the well-being of all beings. And the Buddha had a genius for finding down-to-earth situations that we could relate to engage our emotions, to move to something more higher, such as this positive emotion of metta. And in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, which is one of his main teachings on metta, he brings in the example of a mother's love for her only child. And this is something most of us can relate to, that we may not all have children, but we've all had mothers. And for most of us, I'm not saying all of us, this relationship has been nurturing. What the quality of this relationship that is relevant to metta is that a mother is interested in the growth and development of her child. And this isn't just with humans. We see this in the animal world. We have fox cubs at the bottom of the garden right now, and it's just very moving to see what this mother fox does to keep the foxes sustained, and to grooming and feeding. And so this is something that can act as a springboard that we can perhaps emotionally relate um, to move into this higher, boundless, unconditional love that radiates out to all beings. Now, this is can seem like a lofty, high ideal. I mean, to me, it's always been very inspiring. I think this idea of a boundless, unconditional love is what, in a way, sought me questing spiritually, because I believed it was possible, but I just didn't know how to get there, much as I was inspired by the ideal. And one reason it's difficult to engage with is it's quite abstract, and we tend to be hardwired to see threat in the world. We also tend to put the blame out there when we don't get what we want or need. And oops, sorry, something just come up my screen. Sorry. So we're working against the stream when we're cultivating metta. And it's said that the Buddha originally taught metta because of an incident where the monks were very afraid in the forest. So that's one of the first known teachings that the Buddha gave of metta. And he said, if you practice metta, that's all the protection that you need. And in this time of social distancing, I think this sense of threat could perhaps be even greater for many of us. And it's certainly a quality that we need to bear in mind. Now, the Buddha was very practical as a teacher. He gave us very accessible teachings and ways to engage our emotional energies. So our teacher, Sangharakshara, said that we need to find emotional equivalence for our intellectual understanding. So, as I said, we have this ideal, this beautiful ideal of boundless love. But how do we get there? We get there through our emotional engagement. And the meditation and reflection practice that has evolved around cultivating this boundless love is called metta bhavana. And bhavana is a word for cultivation. And what the Buddhist, the way it's set up is we start with people in our lives. So we start with our day-to-day experience. We have to start with ourselves. Often, much of what gets in the way of metta is putting out there unhappinesses and negative feelings we might feel towards ourselves. So that is a very crucial part of it. However, it's not always easy to start with that. Our teacher has suggested that if we find that difficult, we might want to start with bearing in mind someone we find it easy to have positive emotions for, such as a good friend. And that would be the second stage. And from there, we might imagine our good friend taking us in and imagining the good qualities our good friend might see in us, and build up metta for ourselves from there. There are many, many techniques, which I don't have time to go into. But there are other stages, including a person we don't know well. This is the radical aspect of this quality of metta, where we kind of break through seeing these people outside the warm circle as film extras in our lives. I know that's the way I used to go through my life, or be in a big gathering and you're saying how crowded it is, and everybody else is saying that. And we can't all be the center of the universe. So we're starting um, to make that connection, break out of that circle. And then we have this emotional challenge of bringing in someone we find difficult. And then from there, we're we're, we're building up to an equal sense of well-wishing for all beings. So as we practice this practice, we need to practice this regularly, because as I said, we're working against some hardwired tendencies. But as we practice it, we start breaking down boundaries, and wisdom and insight naturally arises from this. And I was just going to say, what do we mean by insight? I think we could just take that word and say it's an inner vision. So it's an inner vision through meditative absorption or practice, where we see reality the way it truly is, as opposed to our usually being externally looking at things and seeing them in a distorted way. And what these boundaries that start breaking down is, first of all, again, expanding this narrow circle to become infinitely boundless, and to see that we're not fixed, separate selves. And the Buddha would say that this is what the world needs. This sense of me and mine, us and them, is not in line with the true nature of reality. But we need this inner vision. We need a meditative connection and deeper reflection to truly see this. And it's what the world most needs, not only now, but at any time in history. And the Buddha told his monk followers that of all the practices they did, it was, he said you could take all the practices, meditation and insight reflections, and they would only be a 16th part of the value of practicing metta. He said it was freedom of heart, true freedom of heart, to practice metta. And by blowing on the embers of our warmth and affection in our day-to-day lives, it becomes something so powerful that he describes it as glowing, shining, and blazing forth. And I just find that very beautiful and inspiring. And I think as I've practiced over the years with other spiritual friends, it is like something catching fire that, and we can, yes, as I said, gain insight and wisdom that is of true value to the world. So I'm just going to end with a few of my favorite verses from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. And then I'm going to hand over to Viranaga, who will lead us in a form of the Metta Bhavana. So, just as a mother, perhaps risking her life, cherishes her child, her only child, develop an unlimited heart for all beings. Develop an unlimited heart for the entire universe, sending metta above, below, and all around, beyond all narrowness, beyond all rivalry, beyond all hatred. Whether you are staying in one place or traveling, sitting down or in bed, in all your waking hours, rest in this mindfulness, which is known as like living in heaven, right here and now.
Great, thank you, Amarapuspa. Yeah, really enjoyable. I particularly like how you talk about kindness or love as the real central tenet of Buddhist practice, not just a sort of nice add-on, but actually a real conduit to insight itself. Yeah, so thank you very much. So we'll have some an opportunity for questions later on. So if you've got any questions from Amarapuspa's talk, do write them in the chat box. And after the meditation that I'm going to lead in a moment, we will we can put them to Amarapuspa and see what she's got to say. So do any questions okay, even if you're new to the stream. There's no silly questions. Do just ask anything you want to. Just before we meditate, I'll just say hi to a few more people. So we've got Cheryl, Daisy, Amaladana, Pam, Marina, Joanna, and Derek joining us. So thank you for tuning in. Yeah, great. Okay, so I'm going to lead us in a short meditation now. So it's going to be a form of the Metta Bhavana for those of you that know it. But if you don't worry, I'll lead us through the whole meditation. But they're going to be quite short stages. And what I wanted to really do is try to bring in the kind of connected element of one another. So in each stage, if you know the practice, in most of the stages, you just bring in a single person. But what I'm going to encourage us to do is just try to imagine those networks of friendships and connections in each of the stages. So it's a much more expansive form of the Metta Bhavana practice. So you won't have sort of very long, but you're very welcome to have a go at home as well. But I'll lead us through and just see what arises now that we've been enriched by Amarapuspa's talk. Okay, so if you want to get comfortable again, just make sure you're sitting upright. So you want a kind of a relaxed alertness, if that makes sense. So you might want to make sure you're sitting upright, but not too upright, and also just relaxed and poised at the same time. And you can just close your eyes if you're happy to. And for the first stage, I just really like to come into the sense of myself, come into the sense of my body, just like we did at the very beginning with the short breathing space meditation. So connect with your sensations, connect with the contact with the ground, with the chair, contact with your breath. And you can just start by getting a sense of how you are right now. So your kind of inner landscape, your emotional world, maybe an image comes to mind, just how you are. And we don't need to judge anything, we can just notice to start with. You can just notice how we are. And then in the Metta Bhavana practice, all we need to do we start with where we are and we just try to cultivate a little bit more positive intention towards ourselves, a bit more kindness, a bit more care. So it's not always easy for ourselves. We often have critical inner voices, but we can just try to be a bit softer, a bit gentler, a bit kinder to ourselves. So just see if you can kind of get a sense of that. And what I find for the Metta Bhavana practice is it doesn't have to be all fireworks, it can just be quite subtle, quite day to day. Perhaps maybe appreciating yourself for some things that you've done for yourself. We look after ourselves every day, don't we? We feed ourselves, take ourselves to bed, we wash ourselves, we brush our teeth. So we can just appreciate, feel grateful for those actions that we do for ourselves. And to bring in this slightly broader element, maybe you'd like to imagine your friends appreciating you. So your friends clearly appreciate you for things. So seeing if you can bring some of that to mind. Might feel a bit uncomfortable or a bit unusual, even perhaps a little bit conceited, but it's not. It's just us basically being appreciated, by our friends, which of course we are. We are all appreciated by our friends. So just seeing if you can tap into that sentiment a little bit. So then we can go on to the next stage of the practice. And in this stage, we can just let ourselves go for the moment. And in this stage, we're just going to start by bringing to mind a good friend. They're just somebody that you know well, that you have a straightforward relationship with. And just see what your initial response is to imagining that person. So particularly tuning into your body sensations, maybe around your heart or chest area. But also for you, it could be an image or a colour or something else. Just something that evokes that emotional response to your friend. And then again, that's seeing if we can just cultivate a little bit more positive intention, kindness, helpfulness, generosity towards them. Gratitude, gratefulness, appreciation. There might already be quite a bit there already. It might be very straightforward. So you can just sort of experience that. You can just notice it. Feel the flow of that energy towards the good friend. A sort of image of just smiling at them when you see them in the street. And we can bring in the broader element here as well. So just like us, our friends of our friend also appreciate them, including us. We're one of their friends. So getting a sense of a number of their friends appreciating them, that they're part of this network of friendships. And that all of those friends feel metta, feel kindness towards this person, to your friend. Okay, and then we can just start to let the friend go for the moment. We can just let that image go. And then in the third stage of the metta bhavana, we bring to mind a neutral person. So somebody that you don't know well. So you're probably not out and about all that much, but maybe there is somebody that you encounter that you're appreciating, perhaps the postman, the delivery driver, the person that works in the shop, your local shop, work colleagues maybe that you're connecting with remotely, that you're not close to particularly, but you still encounter. So just picking one of those individuals, someone that you do see now and again, you see regularly. And we're just seeing if, so bring that person to mind as clearly as you can. It might be helpful to imagine the context that you know them from. And firstly, just seeing what our initial response is to that person. Because we don't know them well, it might not be very strong, it might be fairly neutral, but that's okay. Just seeing what that is. Particularly with reference to those internal sensations, feelings of warmth in the body, images that come to mind, and so on. So given that perhaps we're not feeling particularly strongly about this person, maybe there's some appreciation or gratitude, but we don't really know them, just seeing if we can try to cultivate a little bit more metta for them, a little bit more kindness, warmth, positivity. And a really good way of doing this is just trying to imagine their humanness, imagine a bit more of their life. So you might know them from one specific context or one specific activity, but what other things are they doing? So probably like you, they'll be quarantined at the moment, they'll be in lockdown, they might be going out to do their work, there might be anxiety as well, there might be fears, they have people that they care about, have people that care for them. So just seeing if we can flesh them out a little bit in our minds. And it doesn't need to be exactly right. We can just imagine that sense of them. Seeing if we can wish them well, wish them kindness as a result of our connecting with their humanness. And again, we can imagine their friendships, their connections, their family. We can witness the appreciation that their friends, or imaginatively witness the appreciation their friends give them, their families give them. And just seeing what a response there is in us to that image, to that idea. We can just be patient. If you're not feeling very much, that's okay, that's absolutely fine. We're always just exploring, working creatively with our experience. Just bring them to mind, work creatively, and just wait patiently to see what you notice. Okay, and we can let that person go, let that neutral person go. Move on to the fourth stage of the practice. And in this stage, we bring to mind somebody that we're having difficulties with. So this could be somebody that you're currently living with, or somebody that you've had a miscommunication with recently. Somebody where things aren't very good between you. There might be a friend that you've fallen out with, or there might be somebody that you don't know all that well. But just bring them to mind, first of all. Bring them to mind. Perhaps again, imagining the context that you know them from might help you get in touch with them. And we always start by noticing how that makes us feel. Just bringing that person to mind. And you might just notice a tightening. That's absolutely fine. That's in a certain way expected. But we still need to connect with that sense. We can't just shortcut it. We need to feel that kind of challenge, feel that rub, feel our emotional response to that individual. And then, like the rest of the stages, we're just going to try to wish them well. Just going to try to generate a bit more kindness, a bit more appreciation, a bit more positive intention. So depending on how strongly you feel, that might be a tall order, but we're just working with what's there, and we're just trying to do as much as we can. Even a little shift is very valuable. So just seeing if you can do that, and just particularly staying connected in the body, around the heart or chest area, tending to that area, or wherever your emotional state. A very good way of trying to work with this difficult person, this person we're having troubles with, is trying to give them a bigger context. So imagining the fact that maybe they're having challenges as well, maybe they're having troubles, which is why they're acting out against you in that way. Or perhaps we can take a broader perspective and think, well, how important is it? You probably don't wish this person harm, unless it's very strong. You probably don't want to wish them harm. You're probably just a bit annoyed with them, a bit frustrated with them. So can you take that slightly bigger perspective? At what it is that what you're upset about, or what you've disagreed about. There may be something there, but you can probably take a slightly bigger perspective. How important is it in terms of our lives? And again, you can imagine this person's friends, this first person's family. So even though that you're having difficulties with them at the moment, or they're having difficulties with you, also they're appreciated by their friends, by their family. Seeing if you can get a sense of that broad network of connections. And just to the best you can, just try to wish them well. And don't have to be hard on yourself if it's not really working, that's okay. We just have to chip away at these things slowly, slowly. And over time, drip by drip, the cup will fill, as they say. Your relationship with this person can and will change. Then you can let that difficult person go. And then we enter the last stage of the practice. So this stage is where we start by bringing all four of these people to mind. So ourselves, the good friend, the neutral person, the person you don't know well, and the difficult person. So bring them all to mind the best you can. See if you can connect with some of the emotions and the experiences that you've had in this meditation towards these people. And just to the best of your ability, see if you can equalize that care, that kindness, that sensitivity towards them. Just as in the quote that Amarapuspa was reading, seeing if we can feel that metta for all four of these people in the same way. We can use the sense of we're all human, we all have hopes and fears and dreams and aspirations. We all want love, we want to give love, we want to be cared for. Seeing if we can connect at that level, wishing all four of these people well. And then finally, we can start to introduce more people into that light of well-wishing, that light of metta. Just allowing your imagination to go, bringing people to mind, bringing them into that light, that aura of kindness, that aura of positivity that you're trying to cultivate towards these people. You might like to just bring in groups of people, starting with friends and family perhaps. people that you've spoken to today online or in your house, people and friends that you haven't spoken to in a while but you're aware of. Just bringing them to mind. You don't have to dwell a long time on each of these people. You can just have a very open, receptive, warm feeling towards them. Just seeing if we can wish them well, cultivate a little bit more positivity. And just really letting your imagination go now. Bringing to mind as many people as you can. All the people in the UK, if you're in the UK, or the country that you're in. Expanding right out to the people in the world. At this particular time, all of us affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. All trying to do our best. Trying to live our lives, make do. Help others. Help ourselves. Just seeing if we can resonate with that common human experience at present. Seeing if we can have a general wish of wellness for all those people. And then you can just let that image start to fade and let it sink into the background. Just taking a minute or so just to tune into your body right now, your emotional experience. Perhaps noting if that meditation has changed anything for you. If you feel a bit more connected, a bit more open. Also maybe noting if it hasn't, that's okay as well. Maybe just taking a deeper breath or two to help us emerge from meditation. And then in your own time, you can just start to bring this short meditation to a close. So there we go, variation on the metta bhavana practice. So I hope that was useful to you. I find it's a really, really good practice. It's often one that I don't always immediately turn to, but one I always find valuable and useful. Okay, so we've got a bit of time now for questions. So yeah, if you've got some questions from Amarapuspa, or you've got some comments on the theme tonight, or you've got questions or reflections about your meditation even, do stick something in the chat room. So yeah, there's quite a few of you around, so I look forward to hearing some questions from you. While you're writing, while you're typing, I'm just going to fill you in on a few extra things. First thing to say is if you're enjoying any of our live streams, make sure you subscribe and click the alert bell so you can see when we're coming up online. We've got a few special events coming up over the next couple of weeks, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on those. So do make sure you subscribe to our stream. And you'll also be aware that we've been doing some fundraising this month as well. So we're trying to raise, or have been trying to raise, £2,000 a month. And so many of you have given to that. So I just want to say a real thank you for that. So we've raised £1,351 at this point. So maybe there's a bit more to come after this stream if you feel like contributing to that pot. So that's but we've basically raised 2/3 of what we need on an ongoing basis. So that's a really, really good start. So just want to say thank you very much for everyone who's given. And there'll of course there's always more opportunities. So we'll be needing to fundraise again next month. So do donate to the stream if you are able to. So you'll find a link in the description about how you can give to that. And then just to say, we've got a whole load of other events coming up as well. So the next event will be on Saturday. So that's going to be a seminar, a discussion group on Zoom. And that will be myself actually giving the final part of our Buddhism, Art and Science series on mind and consciousness. So if you're interested in the relationship between consciousness in terms of science and Buddhism, come to that. And we've also got a Zoom as well that will be after this call, which Amarapuspa will be leading, so you can join us for that as well. Okay, so let's see if we've got any questions. Any questions, Adam?
We've got one question so far, and that's from Ratnachuda. He asks, is the Metta Bhavana limited to humans?
Ooh. Did you hear that, Amarapuspa?
Yes, I did. No. No, it's not. It's for all sentient beings. That's a good question, though, isn't it? But I think it's very good to start with humans, because that's where most of our emotional engagement is. But obviously, traditionally, it's to not only all sentient beings in this world system, but and any across the cosmos. So it's very, very wide.
Great, thanks. Yeah. Let's go to the chat room again.
Yeah, we've got a question from Charlotte that's just come in. She says, apart from in meditation, do you have any other suggestions for how we can help move people in the third stage from being film extras to leading roles in our lives?
Good question.
It's a good question. Well, I think we need to. I do have trust in the inner process of the Metta Bhavana practice. I mean, I think there are things we can do outside the practice, but I think if we're regularly bearing in mind those neutral people, something without even thinking about it and making a conscious effort, something just starts to shift. I've noticed things shifting with I think we all have our favorite neutral person, and that can help. But obviously, there are many things we can do, such as currently people are supporting strangers in all sorts of ways. NHS, charities, food banks. There are all sorts of things we can do, while at the same time having that inner work that works on more of a wisdom aspect that perhaps could sustain us more in giving out in the world in that way.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Hopefully that answers your question, Charlotte. Let us know if not, and we can comment again or respond again. Any more, Adam?
Yeah, we've got two more.
Yeah.
First one from Daisy. I have found it helpful to put myself in all the stages at times, and it helped me to connect. What are your thoughts about this?
I think that's brilliant. It's a brilliant method. And I think the thing is I think we need to learn a method and learn it well. So there's a sequence in the Metta Bhavana. But then we need to, once we get that down, we shouldn't be too literal about it. I think we have to use creativity, such as Sangharakshita talking about starting with a friend rather than ourselves. But also, I think that you can be very creative. There's no limit to the creative ways we can engage with it, such as images or being creative with ourselves in all those stages. I think I highly recommend it, and I have recommended it. So, but thanks for reminding me of that. I think I will again recommend it to people.
I mean, I might just chime in a little comment as well, is that I find that I need to keep innovating in my Metta Bhavana practice. It seems to be something that needs that creative energy to really feel alive. So yeah, I think it is very good to be creative, particularly in the Metta Bhavana. Yeah. Got any more, Adam?
Yes, last question from Derek. He says, I struggle to do the Metta Bhavana at home unguided. I find it easier with a timer or listening to a guided meditation. Any tips?
Good question, Derek.
Well, in terms of doing it unguided, perhaps you could, just experiment. Maybe have one day guided, the next day on your own, but just have a little playing a little bit with the tension of not being comfortable doing it on your own. But I think guided meditation, particularly for metta bhavana, can be very, very helpful. And I think we're all different. I think what's really important, particularly with the first stage, is we start to get to know the territory of ourselves and what works for ourselves. And it's not a one size fits all. And it's also, it's like a laboratory where we're experimenting and trying things out. And there isn't a wrong way. So it almost sounds like there's a flavor a little bit. Maybe I'm reading something into it that maybe you shouldn't be just doing guided, that you should be able to do it on your own. Maybe I'm just reading that in, but that could be just, you could just stay with that and then maybe experiment a little with dropping it, because we change. I'll do things one way for a while, then it gets stale, a bit, as Viryanaga said, and then you start trying to think of creative ways to keep it live.
I mean, maybe I'd also just add is you don't need to do it for very long. Even a few minutes of metta bhavana, or just metta, first stage of the metta bhavana before another meditation practice, can really make a big difference.
Yeah, and you can, last week Ratnachuda talked about when somebody popped into his mind during the day, you just send the metta. It doesn't, I think when I first started doing it, it felt like a chore, the metta bhavana, the 5 stages, and you had to do it for 40 minutes. And so you can just maybe do the 1st and 5th sometimes. The important thing is to keep that momentum alive. And it's more about metta than the actual people. So what's important is that you're cultivating metta rather than rigidly staying to the stages.
Great. So I think that's all of our questions. Do you have any more comments you wanted to make, or anything that's come to mind, Amarapuspa? Anything that's come up for you?
Nothing. I just think it's. I just find it a fascinating practice, in that we don't have to go out and decide we're going to be friendlier to people. If we, what we dwell on, we become. And it's a matter of having faith in the practice, and it is an act of faith to sit down and do it, even particularly when you don't see immediate rewards. But I've had amazing, I'm sure many people have, amazing turnarounds. I had somebody, for example, in the 4th stage for a couple of months who I worked with, and she became a friend of mine, and I was amazed, because it wasn't anything I was doing in my daily life. It was just something changed internally about my response to her. And that was very inspiring.
Great. Well, thank you. I think it's been a really enjoyable, well, I've really enjoyed this evening. Thank you very much for bringing in the insight elements of love and metta. I very much appreciated that. So Amarapuspa will be leading a Zoom discussion after this live stream. So at 8:45, you can go and have a cup of tea and come back for 8:45 if you're interested. And Amarapuspa will be leading that discussion. And just to say what these discussion groups are is they're very, if you want to continue to explore any of the themes that we've started to explore tonight, then they're just an opportunity to start kicking around a few more ideas from fellow practitioners. Basically, if you're struggling with metta bhavana, or you want some help on how you might work in more creative ways, then these discussion groups are really, really handy. And it's a bit like Mitra and I used the metaphor of walking into the Buddhist Center a bit on Monday, which I thought was really good. I mean, you can sit here and watch our live stream, but coming onto a Zoom discussion, it's a bit more personal, isn't it? It takes a little bit more to kind of do, in a way. It requires a bit more engagement from you, but everybody's really friendly, and it's really, really it's really open to everybody of all levels of experience. So if you're at all interested, just pop in on that. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. So that'll be 8:45, and Amarapuspa will be leading that. So that's it. So we'll just start to bring the stream to a close. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Lots of people from all over tune in tonight. Really, really good to see you. So I hope you have a really good end to the week. And I'll say goodbye for me. And Amarapuspa will probably want to say goodbye as well.
Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see some of you later in the Zoom.
Yeah, great. Really great to have you on the stream, Amarapuspa. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Stay well and stay safe.